All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another updated video I wanted to do. So recently, I got another contribution point, and it gets slower over time. But I wanted to do an updated video, basically showing you all the nodes and workers I have set up. And I think I changed a few things as of last time, put some stuff into various towns, which I wanted to talk about as well. So figured might as well just do the whole thing, talk about everything, so you guys can get an idea of what might be profitable or what might be interesting to have. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about all this. So with that said, how do I look at this as a beginner? And like, let's say if you were starting out the game and thinking about what you should pick up, I want to say that you should always invest your nodes into things that you would think are useful for you and not necessarily copy someone else. Because, for example, my nodes might be more for cooking and alchemy, whereas someone else might be doing things for full profit and stuff, right? So, with that said, it's probably a little bit easier to look at the nodes when I do it like this compared to seeing a bunch of things like that. So figured let's do this. All right, so we'll go region by region from the starter areas all the way down to like not DLC, the latest areas. So with that said, let's talk about Balanos as a whole. You start out in Vellia basically, or Western Guard camp, and then going to Vellia. So if you're looking for profit, the most profitable nodes are probably going to be various alchemy stuff, timbers, and certain minerals. So what I have here in Vellia, I think the priority nodes that I would pick are probably some things along the lines of various saps, because saps for alchemy is used to craft like elixirs and stuff, high-end grinding spots for endgame players. They'll buy those. Other than that, you can get chicken meat, eggs, and various potatoes. So chicken meat over here is used to boost your contribution points by when you cook, you get byproducts, right? You get like witches' delicacies from just cooking random things, right? Every now and then. And so what you turn this into is more contribution XP and cooking XP. And so that's why I have like almost 1 million grilled bird meat and a lot of other chicken meat that I have, mostly to cook it for the random contribution points every now and then, and it helps me like actually invest in more things. So I think having the chicken meat node is always a good one. Eggs is pretty good. You can buy them nowadays. Back in the day, they used to be pretty scarce, but nowadays it's more easy to obtain. But also beginner things too. You can always make beer, which actually is worth a little bit more than the grilled bird meat because everyone does the same thing. But essentially, beer was the old school version of the chicken meat or grilled bird meat, and you essentially use it to feed your workers as well. So that's always a good thing. Other than that, I have a lot of timbers and sap nodes, mostly a lot of timbers and more chicken meat here. So if I were to prioritize anything, especially as a beginner, it'd be the chicken meat node, and basically those are something to get you started as a beginner. Otherwise, if you have more contribution points, you can have the iron and copper nodes going on, because those are actually pretty valuable. You may not think you need it now. There are people with millions of them, but eventually you will actually use them. So iron and copper are pretty valuable overall. And so you kind of want to just have it like producing iron ore every now and then eventually you'll need it. Trust me on that one. But yeah, those are the notable ones here. And going down into Serendia or Heidel area, there are a few things that I think are notable. So let's talk about some certain specific nodes in particular. Where is it? 1 second. Where is this one? Okay, so you're gonna probably see an excavation node, right? These are not here by default. The way you get them unlocked is by talking to the node manager in a certain area or in the node, and you pay like 50 energy or something, right? And then they'll unlock the excavation node for you to invest your contribution into. So Trace of Savagery is probably the most sought after trace right now. They're going to be unifying all the traces and alchemy materials, fruits, and everything in the next week or two. And so basically all the trace nodes are going to be unified into one, which is obviously a good thing. And so you kind of want to start investing into excavation nodes early, simply because it is kind of a time consuming thing, especially if you don't want to pay for it. So like you want to, all these things right here going to be combined into one unified trace in the future. So it's a good idea to just start collecting them anyway. And down here we have another one, which is Trace of Earth and Ascension. In about a week, it's not going to matter because they're going to be unified, but it's still a good idea to actually collect them. Forest of Seclusion, we have timbers and more copper, which I think are very valuable. But in Heidel, we have a few unique nodes. One being the cooking honey over here. There's only, I think, 2 nodes, or maybe 3, that actually have cooking honey. But if you need it, this is one of them. And it's something to actually just put on, even if you don't think you need it right now. It's good to have it just in case you think you will. But I do believe you can just buy it. Like, they're not expensive anymore, but it's still one of those things where it's one of the unique ones to the area. So going down into the other notable ones, everything else here is like a lot of wheat and stuff. So kind of like a lot of cooking materials. And there's also one here. It's another excavation trace node down in Glish. So as you guys know, in Serendia, the Serendia region, there's a lot of trees. So there's a lot of timbers and everything. So basically, a lot of stuff here is timbers, which I think are actually very valuable. So timbers actually do sell for quite a bit, depending on which ones, obviously. Logs you kind of have to gather yourself because they don't come directly off of a particular like node worker, but you have to gather it yourself. They come from every tree, essentially. So very good. Yeah, that's pretty much all the notable ones. This is down here is kind of an investment. I wouldn't recommend this to new players because these are just kind of expensive to get. This is like not really super worth. It's just like one of those things where you don't know what to do with your CP, so you just kind of dump it there. But if I were to recommend any things for like the special ones for Serendia, it'd be the honey node, the excavation down into farms, another excavation here, and basically any other timbers you can get that are just like saps and timbers, because those are actually pretty valuable. So yeah, with that said, there's also iron ore here. It's nice to have, but it's like third on the priority list of things I would value, like saps and timbers, and then iron, but also in the middle, probably the traces. So yeah, those are the priorities in Heidel. Going down into Calpheon, because this is the next region you unlock. Admittedly, I don't have as much here as I used to, because it used to be good, but then as more regions got introduced to the game, I kind of started shuffling everything around. So what I have here is basically these nodes: wheat and barley, used to cook basically beer and all this stuff, more contribution. Then I have timbers, birch and sap. Birch sap is actually pretty good. Well, the birch timber is worth processing. The sap itself is, no, it's fine. And then down here we have more ores and timbers. So for these two, that's about it. That's nothing much here. Then we have Keplin. This is one of those things where if you have more CP than you know what to do with, which is a weird thing to do. One thing I invested in is coal, because there are a few nodes with coal, but it's not like easily obtainable without having to go out of your way to get it yourself. So it's one of those expensive connections down to the Glatoni cave, and you just kind of have to do this. Is it worth it? Debatable if you need it, but otherwise not really. So One thing I have in Portaferia, which is still considered Calpheon, is I actually have one fish node, and slowly over the years I've been actually getting rid of these nodes. The reason why I had them back in the day was because back before they came out with all the different pet foods and everything, you would kind of have to make it yourself, and they were basically always sold out on the market. So it's one of those things where if you had pets, which everyone should have pets, you kind of had to make the food yourself. Nowadays, you just buy it. It's not a big deal. You don't even need these nodes. But basically, you would get the dried fish. It takes like, I don't even know, like 6 to 12 hours per cycle, which is a lot. And you'd get all the dried fish. So this is literally years of the nodes just kind of going. And basically, you get the dried fish, and then you turn it into pet food. And yeah, that was how I made mine back in the day. So I never had to buy them. They were kind of expensive. But nowadays, what you would do is basically just go buy good feed, and then you just buy them. Also, I believe at the market or like the stable keeper, I believe you can actually just buy them like the cheap feed of the vendor. But I don't know. I personally like having the higher ones because they just recover more and they weigh the same amount. So if you don't have like a lot of weight, you really don't want to carry a lot. But nowadays it's super easy with everyone having free maids and everything. It's not really an issue, or you just like swap characters. It's kind of one of those convenience things. But other than that, you don't actually need fish nodes anymore. It's kind of those things there. If you get it, you're using it for a specific cooking recipe that could be outside of feed. But I would say most people do not actually have a lot of these unless you are heavily invested into cooking. So next we're going down into the Trent area, and I would say that Trent is more for the end game or like mid to end game players. It's not really like beginner friendly just because you have to connect a lot of the prerequisite ones to get the important ones. So this is one of those things where I would recommend having at least like 300 plus contribution points before investing into. It's not that you can't do it early, it's just it's not really worth it early. So I have mine connected down here and here. So what nodes do we have? We have the Trent Forest, which is for fir timber. We have one over here, which is for cedar and spirit's leaf. And the reason why we have this is these timbers are actually worth a lot. So like cedar, not so much, but fir is worth a lot. We also wanted the spirit's leaf and the sap because I do actually do a lot of processing and alchemy. So I thought that the cedar ones are actually worth a lot. Same with spirit leaves. And the timbers are just kind of there. The really notable one is fir, in my opinion, just because it has the highest price tag. But then you would also go here, which is cedar, timber, and sap. This is the valuable node, in my opinion, of the area. So even if you don't get these two, longleaf is a good one. And then I have these connected, which I don't think it's super worth. It's more like specific to what I do. So it's not really worth the investment of going all the way down here for these. But it's more pine sap because that was a bottleneck for me when I was crafting elixirs. And this ghost mushroom, I just kind of needed it for a little bit, and then I just left a note on. But anyway, saps are always valuable, so are timbers, and that's what I have here. So I guess let's go starting from earliest to newest release, and then next we had the Kamasylvia region. Admittedly, this one isn't as valuable. The Kamasylvia area in general isn't super popular. I have one thing connected, or two things actually. Down in the Loopy Tree Forest, I had the tree sap, the timbers, and planks. This one isn't super necessary. It's kind of like very specific to what you need. And then forest, I have another excavation node. Trace of Nature is actually something that I've used a lot of, especially if you are grinding Elvia. I believe you need it to make those heart thingies for your necklace upgrade. So it's like one of those cup thingies, but essentially like it's not, you don't need it. You can just buy it off the market, but I just had one connected. And also, I have this from back in the day when I was actually grinding for my infinite potions. So remember, like, you had to grind Renaros over here, and then I used to have that. And then I also connected Ash Forest when I was going for my Debo, which luckily we're done, because that is actually one of the worst things I've ever done. Ash Forest is not great. So yeah, that's the only connection I have here. And then the only one really worth getting is the trait excavation node. But even then, it's not super worth. So keep that in mind. So down in Old Wisdom Tree, what we have connected is a little bit weird, because we have it connected all the way to Odraxia, and what we have is Thornwood Forest. And I remember investing into this because there's a lot of, like, Thornwood is really good back in the day. It's not bad now, it's just not as good because accessory prices are tanking, and then here we are. So what we have is Thornwood, Timber, and Sap. I do believe these are actually valuable nodes, or this is a valuable node because of the Sap and Timber, more so to Sap in general. Crypt of Resting Thoughts. I am happy. I am done. The belt is done. Got the merchant ring piece. But the one we have here is Trace of Battle and Massive Pure Magics. If you need Massive Pure Magics, they're nice. If you don't, you don't. But I have a series where we basically have a journey to Pen Blackstar, and I just kind of need these. Plus, I like the excavation node for Trace of Battle, which we'll assume be unified soon. But other than that, here we have a unique one, which is Nickel and Mithril. This has got to be one of the worst nodes, because Mithril has like the lowest rate of like getting one for node, which I think there's actually a better one. We'll talk about that when we get there. But this is actually a valuable node. It's just the rate of getting it from this Olins kind of sucks. But other than that, we have Thornwood, Sap, and Timber. I do believe, once again, this is a pretty valuable node. And chicken meat and eggs, like we talked about earlier. So I believe this is actually a pretty solid one. Next, we have in Duvinkroon, we have the other Mithril node, which is actually a good one. So you know how we had like 300 Mithril here, because the Olins one kind of sucked. I believe this one is the actual better one if you do want to pick up Mithril. And so I have like 4,000 here. It's a wild difference, like how much you actually get. So yeah, if you need Mithril, take this node, not the Olins one. But if you really need it, you might as well just have both of them. But if you can only pick up one, this one is 100% better. And I believe that's actually it in Duvinkroon. There's not really much that's worth in these two areas. Odraxia has some pretty solid ones, and especially if you are doing any hunting and you invested in Narcion, this is the #1 hunting spot in the game. You should be there from beginner 1 all the way to Guru. So yeah, I have a video on that as well. All right, so going down into the Mountain of Eternal Winter. This one is unique. I don't think it's super important, but there are a few reasons why you should get it. So first of all, let's talk about some of these. This one is not one you should get. I just have it because I need it specifically. The Highlands is a cooking honey and an excavation node. I might invest into this one after the big change just to get more like unified traces. This one is Birch Timber. Birch Timber is actually worth it in my opinion. Of a lot of timbers, this one has a lot of value. And Jade Starlight Forest. If you are going to get your Labresca helmet yourself, like if you want to grind out all the flames instead of just buying it, this is the place you're going to be grinding in general, so you might as well start investing into the node. And by investing, I mean like you level up the thingy over here to like 20, just for the higher drop rate in theory. So yeah, I've had this for a while. Snowfield Timber and Snowfield Cedar Sap, very valuable. Rough Jade, also very valuable. So we have this in here. You see the cooking honey as well as the Rough Jade. This is a high value node. You don't get a lot of them, but it's like value if you're just selling it to the market. But mostly we're going for the Cedar Saps. These are worth like 37,000 or probably maxed out. These are a valuable node to have going on. Same with the timbers. So this is like just a very good node to have both of these connected. If you don't have the other two, it's not a big deal. But if you do have any sort of connection, it should be the Jade Starlight Forest, plus you grinding there for the helm in general. All right, so next we have the... Well, I guess I should probably talk about these, but let's just talk about this one because it's quick. All right, so this is the new Ulita area, and there's not really anything worth investing into, but I've grinded from my telescope. It took me over 200 hours total, like, as they released. All I have connected is the Highlands, which in theory I don't really need anymore, but I still have it because it is a pretty good sync for your Agris if you're grinding. But other than that, I invested into these nodes just to get it to level 20 to, like, you know, grind out the telescope piece in general. The City of the Dead is also maxed out. Tungrad Ruins also maxed out. There's no notable nodes in here. They don't actually give anything, but they're good to invest in if you want to grind there. So yeah, the telescope piece, it is done. We never have to worry about that again. I got it like last year, but it's nice. All right, so going down further west, wait, that's east. We have the Tariff and the Altinova area. So basically the way I split this up is, you see this line right here, right? Down here, if anything crosses to that way, the east of it, then it's probably connected to Altinova, whereas anything to the west of Tariff is probably connected to Tariff. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how I set mine up. So anyway, as of notable nodes I have connected to Tariff, there is a few up here, which is the cedar and basically timbers, right? So saps are valuable, timbers valuable once again, and these are high investment nodes, but they are actually worth getting, if anything. All of these are kind of just like mushrooms, and if you do alchemy, it's good. If not, don't bother. Zinc ore, and yeah, I think just zinc ore is actually a pretty valuable one, and then the rest of these are just mushrooms for self life skilling. So the notable ones probably connected to Altinova are the Omar Lava Cave. These both give coal and zinc ore. These are very valuable. Zinc is very valuable. Platinum is extremely valuable. So this is the one node that you should invest in. Coal itself is a nice one, but if you were to invest in one of these, it'd be platinum, or the other one for platinum and zinc. And then the one down here, Abandoned Iron Mine, is iron ore and zinc ore. So to give you an idea, platinum is very valuable. You need it. So even if you don't use it, you might as well just start collecting it. And then zinc ore is a pretty valuable material. Plus you get a lot of elder tree timbers going up here anyway. So yeah, these three nodes that I have connected are basically elder tree timber nodes, where you can see I have 1.6 million of them, plus a lot of elder tree planks. I kind of just like seeing the big number get bigger every now and then, like monthly or yearly. And so if I ever wanted a hard push processing to Guru 50 plus, this would probably be it. Me just dunking 2 million timbers and processing them all up to plywood and then just selling it. But like, is it worth it? I don't know. Not really. I could grind for more silver, but either way, Guru 40 processing, that's cool. Does it do anything? No, but that's what I basically have. Those are the notable ones. Down here, what we have connected was basically I was going to set up my workers in the Akhman and Histria area for Dechia. Nowadays, I don't really need it, so I could remove them. What I was going to replace it with was going down into the sulfur mine, and because Dechia sulfur is a new thing that they added, and I do need to go for the archaeologist map at some point, so I'm probably going to connect these. But these nodes right here were basically connected to the coast, and this is the Histria one. So this one is Dechia and normal Histria. This one is Akhman and Dechia Akhman. So you can actually see it and read it in the tooltip, so that's cool. But yeah, I I'm probably going to get rid of these nodes and replace it into sulfur. And then the only thing we have down in the Arihaza area is these two nodes, the Gavinia Volcano Zone. And basically we have titanium and vanadium ore. And these are definitely ones that are specific to the point where you have to actually know what you're doing with it to get it, because they're just kind of a connection out in the middle of nowhere. So if you know what you're doing with it, then it's good. If you don't know what you're doing, it's not worth it. So basically, what they do is craft Monos accessories. These are only one material. Does it save you a little bit of silver crafting Monos this way by yourself? A little bit, yes. But if you're not even into life skills at all, it's not even worth the investment into your node. So I think that's everything in terms of the mainland. There are a few things I want to talk about. If you are a sailor or you want to try out sailing in the future, Ilia Island is going to be one of them where you collect all the barter materials and everything. So what I did was basically Ilia Island is your central hub for sailing, right? That or Achilles Eye. Now, if you want to start sailing, here are 2 tips I can give to you. Have a separate thing for boat upgrades and then bartering. So what I did was Ilia Island is for bartering. These are all my materials. And then Port Afaria is for boat materials and everything, right? That way, when you do this, especially if you don't have a lot of inventory or storage space, this is going to be helpful because, you know, you just separate them. But for all of you who are sailing, here are some tips I can give to all of you. Use Lima Island as like a halfway point, right? So if you have any barters that are on this side, make sure your connections to everything, as in like, let's say you're trading up for level 1 to 5 materials. If you're doing a route, you want to do everything on one side versus left or right side, basically. And so that's how I plan my routes. And a few notable nodes for all of you who are looking to upgrade into a Carrack or your Carrack gear. You're going to need a lot of these blueprints to get blue gear, right? So these 4 nodes right here, this one, and then I believe these 2 are ones that are basically excavations, and they give you the blueprints and everything else, so you're going to need to have it eventually. So you should probably invest in this now if you plan on going for a Carrack in the future. And basically it just gives you these blueprints and you can use it to craft blue gear, blue Carrack gear, that is. And then, yeah, that's about it. Other than that, it's nothing particularly worth investing into the ocean, but it is what it is. Now let's talk about Land of the Morning Light, because everything here is 1 contribution point, which is good because there's a lot of things that are questionably worth. So over here we have an excavation node for a trace of memory. Probably if you're watching this 2 weeks down the line, you're going to be like, what is that? Basically all traces are going to be unified once again. And so Land of the Morning Light has been a unique one for me because they give various things like the embers, the forest crystals, and like various other crystals that you would get. So basically, here's what it looks like. Here's how I have it set up. Land of the Morning Light. So you see all these crystals right here, right? You get these from either the node or doing the weekly boss splits. And then you kind of want to just have them like kind of connected to get everything anyway. So here's what I have. Probably should have just clicked it. All right, so the only one I have in the Nampo village is the island for the trace. And then we'll take the Dalwol village as the middle, and then the far right one, the county, as the right side. So for the middle, I have these connected, these 3. So I have the forest and the Golden Pig Cave. The reason why is mostly we just want the crystals and the traces. So these are definitely worth getting for that. And then for the right side, we have a connection of basically pine timber. Once again, very optional if you don't need it. More pine timber. And then this one is probably the one that you're going to be wanting to have more saps and timbers. Admittedly, these are very specific. Like if you don't need it, you don't need to have anything invested into Morning Light, in my opinion. This is more of like a personal use kind of thing. But that's what I have. So Is anything here really worth it? No, especially because the drop rates for the crystals are so low. But I think it's one of those things, if you just leave it on over time, you'll eventually, maybe they'll be worth it. Who knows? Probably not, but whatever. So with that said, those are my nodes for this area, or my updated node setup. One thing I wanted to talk about before we actually wrap up is town connections. And so what do I have like connected to, like houses and everything? So I had another video recently of talking about how to craft furniture, or not furniture, it is the Old Moon costumes. So basically, for all of you who have a lot of those mythically intrinsic patterns or whatever, you can use them to make Charleston weapons sub box. I told you how, the quest line you have to do, and basically you just turn these into basically armors, and then you can melt them for crons. So very easy. My main hub for like cooking and alchemy is basically one of these houses, 7-3, and then I believe, is this 7-3? Yeah, and then the cooking is at 7-4. But aside from that, that's about it. Let's see, what other houses do I have? You can actually check these. So I have basically a 9-4 house. I have a house in 2-3, Grana and Ulita. So that's where, those are where my houses. I mostly keep them for like various buffs when I'm grinding. Ulita was for Crypt of the Resting Thoughts and Thornwood. Like I left some buff thingies there. Kamasylvia is kind of the same. Like all of these are mostly that. Balanos and Serendia is where I do a lot of my processing and cooking and alchemy life skills. And then these two are for grinding. I also have the Manor invested in, which is 10 CP that I don't really use, but I mean, I really wish for the Manor you could just dunk silver into it and be like, here, you want to buy this Manor for like 100 billion silver? You can do that, but it's permanent instead of like the rental for like 1 mil a day. It's not a lot for a year. Like it's just 20 minutes of grinding for a year of your Manor, but it's like, I wish it was permanent. Kinda, you know what I mean? I never have to think about it again. But anyway, that's really it. That's all my node connections and everything. So basically, if we learned anything, timbers, very valuable, minerals, saps, traces, and, you know, basically alchemy and cooking and processing materials. Those are the things I think are worth it, in my opinion. As a beginner, just invest in things that you think you need, and it should be good. But with that said, that's all from me today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, welcome, first and foremost. Hope you enjoyed it enough to hit that subscribe button, drop a like and everything. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we have more updated stuff coming soon. Thanks so much for watching. Peace!